All right, so please bow. Good to see you, good to see you. You're in my heart, you know. It's such a joy to see you every Sunday. Really? Yeah, really. So we can take us a moment just to acknowledge each other. And yeah, also to acknowledge people who will meet us later through the video recording worldwide, right? From many, many countries, different time zone, different cultural background, yeah, different age, male, female, any gender. There is in certain traditions, Dharma talks start with dear sisters and brothers in suffering. This is what actually connects us, right? That suffering. And somehow our life is around that. How to alleviate it, yes, to some extent. So most of the time we do not use the right strategies. we use strategies which actually bring us to more suffering. Let's say maybe not, well, kind of fleeting satisfaction for a short moment, and then it comes back again somehow. Or we do not recognize that the kind of joy that we have is not satisfactory in itself, because again fleeting, or again tainted by maybe a bit of greed, a bit of envy, a bit of clinging, grasping, hoarding, wanting it to last. And therefore we are in that kind of vicious circle. Whatever we do, realize that that's not it. That's not it. Yet not it. I have that. I achieved that. I went to that place. I tasted that. I'm finally well dressed, or I am finally with that loving partner. I have bought that house, or I have kids, or yeah, I moved to another place, to another country. I've started the spiritual path, and yet, right? At the end of the day, or when you wake up, still there is this very strong feeling of unsatisfaction. All right, so we start maybe to seek around, asking ourselves, what is it all about? Maybe if I had this or that, it would be different, right? If I had the right purpose, if I had the right goal, if I had, I don't know, what, something else, something different, then maybe I would be happy. And we keep looking outside to find satisfaction, to find fulfillment. And we can see that this kind of looking outwards for satisfaction, for excitement, entertainment, for completion, this energy that we put trying to seek for that is exhausting. This work to seek out something that we do not have is exhausting. It's like it's never-ending thirst, right? So we seek, but we forget. We forget to look, let's say, at the right place, which is inside of us, which is not really an inside, but let's call it like this temporarily. And this until we realize really that nothing in the world, in the, again, external world, can satisfy us. Even if so we have to try many things until we realize, yeah, well, not that. What? Again, this new thing, again, these new toys, again, this new sightseeing, and then why? What? Do I feel more complete? I have more experience, I have more knowledge. But overall, again, sisters and brothers in suffering, right? Like there are days that are better than others, but overall there is this feeling that there is still something lacking, something missing in our life. And what we are looking for is inside us, that realization that we are not that we are not that body, that we are not that identity that we are fabricating. Because we are, overall, when we really start to look back inside, let's say, not an inside that is inside physical boundaries, but just turn the perspective a bit differently. Then we realize that what is lacking is actually not real. So as I said, we hallucinate ourselves. So how is it so? How is it so? So we know that wise people say that this world is an illusion, but yeah, or that we are living in a matrix and somehow we have to wake up from the dream. But how do we realize that? First, we have to recognize that anything that the world can bring us is just unsatisfactory first. It's fleeting, never permanent. So we cannot really gain lasting peace, I would say. And how to realize that we are in a dream state all the time? Well, we go back inside, we turn the mirror inside, develop awareness, embodied awareness, and we start to dismantle the process of creating our world. We try to disentangle everything, our desire, our feelings. We start to be the witness of our thoughts, of our sensations, of we start to look at from an external point of view, let's say, or from the witness point of view, what are our perceptions? How do they color our experience? And if we change them, how do they change our experience? Or we start to look at how we use words, speech, how we define things, and how our classifications of things play a role in our experience, until we stop then giving names or having certain view or opinions on our experience, right? So where are we going with all of that? To the construction of identity, the identification that we have with our body, this construction of identity that we have. So freedom starts with kind of letting go of identity, of who we are, how others define us, how we define ourselves. Because this is where everything starts. The moment that you define yourself a certain way, which is completely abstract, if you really contemplate it, right? It's never right. The way you define your personality is never right, because it depends on the situation. And as soon as you start to identify with your identity, or with certain qualifiers or names that you give to yourself, even if you identify with your gender, then this is when the problem starts, I would say. The sense of lack, the sense of not being enough. And this sense of self, finally, we can actually, through insight practice, start to realize it and start to some kind of, at the moment we start to look at it, it vanishes, right? Almost. It depends on how much we cling to it. And it's kind of a house of cards. So at the moment you start to look at this sense of self, in which condition it's arise, and sometimes it's gradual, or let's say it has a kind of wide range as really solidified entity like I am me, to very, very subtle unconscious habitual patterns that you believe are you. And through insight practice, you can actually start to recognize it and even feel it and know the consequences when it arises. How does it feel? Why does it arise? Under which conditions? When it vanishes because of its recognition, because we start to stop clinging to it, then what happens? What are the consequences? Do I feel lighter? Do I feel more joyful? Do I feel like I'm in a more expanded mind state? Right? So really, everything starts to shift, I would say, as soon as we inquire about that sense of self, of me, of I. Because you can also recognize every day how much we pay, how much effort is to satisfy that person that we think we are, quite a lot of time. I would say all of our life. So for me, for example, so I was traveling for work, and at work I'm Dr. Muriel Sicot, expert in that research field, and I work in this and this, in this lab, and I do this and I do that, and over the past 15 years I've been doing. This is how society, depending on the situation, qualifies you. All of us, we do that. It's consensus. We define ourselves. But at home, who am I? I am mom. I'm no longer mom. Now I'm mu because my daughter doesn't call me anymore mom. But I'm the provider, the caregiver. So depending on the situation, you change identity. Your hat is different, all right? So and maybe if you are, I don't know, if when I go training at the temple, I'm just nobody. I'm just nobody. I'm just training for being nobody somehow. So losing identity. And it's not really, you can keep going in the world and be okay with that consensus, let's say, because you have a name, an age, an identity, a date of birth. But at some point you no longer identify with that. And strongest identification is with that body. Somehow there is this habitual pattern in everything you do that starts with the assumption that you are that body, right? How can it be different than that? Well, you have to go back inside. You have to look at the body from inside. You look at the sensation as not yourself, as not self. It's anatta in the Buddha's teachings, all right? But if we do not stay only in that tradition, in many traditions, this is, look at this body as something that will not last anyway. And I would say that the experience of near death that I had is that when your body just starts to collapse and your body no longer functions, then all of that almost arbitrary identity just falls apart. Of course, then when the body is about to die, then all your possessions no longer matter. Your title no longer matter. Really. If you are young, if you are old, no longer matters. So contemplation, either you have that kind of experience or contemplation of death, then can bring you to that realization. And it sounds very, very negative, or like we try to negate ourselves, to not be that person and so on, but it's not that. So it's not rejection of the person, all right? It's just letting go of the habitual pattern of the false assumption that we are that body, missing the crucial point, which is the deathless consciousness, or I don't like to give it a name, because as soon as you name it, then it's already not that. But alright, this is a pointer. Okay, don't take those words very do not reify them, do not cling to them. So this is a very, very long introduction to the anatta non-self practice that we are going to do. So this is a kind of practice that will be helpful and then can be actually very helpful, of course, while sitting, but also do it. I would advise you to do it also in daily life. At the moment you just stand up away from the cushion, ask yourself, stop for one moment and look at yourself and say, okay, right now do I believe that I am this body? Why? Where I am going? Who is going? Who is walking? How does it feel? If I start to inquire and ask the question, is it still there? And when it's not there, when I do not rush to get something, to get rid of something, when the craving is gone of being myself, then how does it feel? All right? But we are going to contemplate the body right now for a short moment, and while sitting, or you can do it also while lying down. So this practice has to be done with kind of lightness, always a kind of metta for yourself, goodwill, let's say, for the practice. And yeah, of course, when we say not self, it's a kind again of negation, but we are not there to reject any part of ourselves or any part of our habitual patterns, or I saw myself as myself again. Then it's just hitting oneself with a hammer again. So this is not what we are aiming at. We do not have any aim, but let's say it's kind of you are putting some glasses that are the not self color, or it's a kind of way of looking. So for the moment, again, temporarily, we say, okay, it's a way of looking at things, but it must be developed to some extent that there is no doubt at all at some point. And it will be the natural state of being, to not identify with any coming and going phenomena in your life. So I invite you now to close your eyes and stay in your, choose a posture of meditation that allows you to stay alert. So it can be sitting on a chair, back straight if you can, not reclining if you can on the back of the chair, comfortable still, or sitting on a cushion, crossed legs, lying down comfortably, not too comfortably, so you can stay alert for the next 20 minutes. Close your eyes. You can scan through the body. Have first perception of the whole body sitting there. Body breathing. One can relax the forehead, Open it to the right and left. Make it broad, smooth. Relax the jaws. Relax the tongue in the mouth. Relax the back of the head. Again, let the shoulders melt right and left. Go down through the arms and relax the hands. Make them light, open, inside of the palm, relaxed. Fingers, they do not have to grab anything right now. They can extend a bit. The wrist relax. Maybe they stay on your lap like heavy weight. One can relax the belly, make it soften, relax the diaphragm. Open a bit the hips. And relax areas in the pelvis. Relaxing the thigh muscles. Can go down till the ankles and our foot. The toes can relax. Big toes, hairy toes. Can draw. Smile on our face. Knowing the whole body breathing right now. For a minute or so, I invite you to feel the body breathing. Whole body breathing, an impression, feeling of the whole body breathing. Wanting to change anything about the body. If the mind wanders, just bring it back to the whole body breathing. Now I invite you to look at this feeling of I am this body breathing. This habitual perception of experience. I am this body breathing, or I am in this body, or this body is who I am. Now I invite you to contemplate what this body is really. This body is actually made up of food. The food you are eating every day is transformed into this body. This body is what you eat, really. Everything is about transformation of what you eat and what you've been drinking. Maybe also smoking goes into the body. Use the building blocks of food and reuse it to make that body. So are you food? Are you food? If you look closely, there are living bacteria inside of you. So they are you, or you are them, or what? Each cell has its own life. Are you controlling every cell of that body? Or does life happen by itself? That body is aging every second. 2 moments are not the same for that body. So if there would be any self in that body, then that self is always changing. It's not a solid thing. It can't be. That body is a process, exchanging with the environment. Some gases, some liquids. Food goes into the body, transform, product ejected. Exchange through air, through sweating. When this body, when does it become yours? Your property? My body. This is not mine. This is not myself. This I am not. When does air becomes my air that I'm breathing? When it's inside of that body, is it mine? Then when I exhale, it's no longer mine. Is there any real boundary between inside of the body and outside? And if I understand that I am not that body, then who am I? Where does this sense of me, of I, from where does it arise? Now it's possible that in that body there is a painful area calling, and that painful area is I'm in pain. But is it that body saying that I am in pain? If we look closely to that sensations, when does it become mine, my pain? It becomes my pain when I want it to stop. But let's look at pain as pain. Physical sensations, feeling of pain, disagreeable feeling. It's not me, not mine, not myself. Let's look at that painful area a bit more with close attention, if we found one. And lock your mind to it. And look at its changing nature. Bubble of sensations. Keep your mind there. Point of sensations, disagreeable feeling. Is it really yours? If it would be yours, then you could say stop. Can you stop the pain without moving? So again, you can put your attention to the whole body breathing. And you can try to inquire if there is any feeling of I am breathing. And now you can put your mind on the swelling of the belly during inhalation. And when the belly collapses during exhalation, and put your mind there. Try to stick your mind for a while on the belly swelling and collapsing. A light awareness of the breathing. If there is any wandering thoughts, then bring your attention back to the breathing. Full inhalation, full exhalation, mind sticks to the breath. From beginning, middle, and end. And if the mind wanders, bring it back gently to the breath. If the mind wanders, bring it back. And now look and try to sense, to feel if that sense of self has changed regarding the breath. Are you the breath? Are you breathing? Or is that the body breathing itself? How does it feel when the sense of self is attenuated with the case? Or how does it feel when it is exacerbated, maybe by frustration, restlessness, difficulty to concentrate, whatever situation you're in? Feel how the practice has modulated this sense of self. And whenever you're ready, you can come out of the meditation. Take your time. So We are training for self-loss. What happens? How do we live if we forget our personal history somehow? Right. I think, well, memories, recalls, and so on, they can, of course, keep popping up as memories, but somehow they are no longer defined us, or there is an understanding that we are not them, we are not limited by them, we are not limited by our qualities, defaults, defects. Once you realize really how this sense of self emerges from wanting, desire, thirst of getting, then at some point when we caught ourselves contracted, anxious, or very much excited about something, then we can say, okay, pause and bring back this insight that those states are impermanent, cannot be ourselves. So it might look a bit kind of artificial at the beginning, but at some point over time you will see that the practice really sinks into, let's say, I would call it the psyche, but just to give it a name, it becomes so obvious after a time, or the practice just spread into many areas of your life, then it becomes what we call then wisdom. And it's kind of supramundane wisdom that it applies all the time without you having to refresh it, or without you having to think about it. At some point, this sense of self is really dropped somehow, but this is something that you have to go through. This is the practice again of non-self. So it might be a bit misleading, because in other tradition we call that we have to realize the self, but this is not the same self. There is a self with small s and a self with capital letter S, and in another tradition, I think it's the Hindu tradition, the self is actually what I would call awareness, pure awareness, consciousness. So sometimes words are misleading if we go through or use different traditions. Alright, if you have any questions, remarks, comments, then you're welcome to speak. It will be recorded for the sake of everyone. I think every question, every comment is very useful. And at some point in the practice we have to, it might be useful to ask questions, yes. I have to check what is written. I cannot check it right now. Can you ask your question again? Written.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just that the first letter of this name on the screen, together they make up I am.
Yeah, very good. That's true. That's true. I am. Yes. It's a nice remark. So, it's you will see also in many spiritual tradition that this is the main question: who am I? But this is in question that we have this kind of inquiry has to be a kind of down silently, so not too much intellectually. So this is difficult to understand, but somehow when you are in the meditative states, you do not have much, many thoughts. So even if you do not have the answer, staying calm and silent in the mind might be enough. Actually, contemplation is not involving lots of thinking. Actually, so it's another way of using this inner natural intelligence, I would say. And maybe you will have to go over and over again to that practice until that one day it will hit you in the face. Like, or maybe it will be gradual, but yeah, one has to come over and over again. Although it might seem very painful, right? So anytime you got scared, there might be strong fear also appearing during your practice. So it's quite normal, just acknowledge it, notice it. Maybe you can also make a break during your practice, invite metta, loving kindness, and then start again. So once again, this is not um, to reject ourselves or to define us as something bad, or if we have this sense of self to feel bad about it, to feel too egoistic or something like this. This is not that, right? So we have to find a balance, and if you have any kind of troubles with that practice, you can always, of course, contact me. We can talk about it and see how to adjust it. All right? Because at some point with that practice, one has to pay attention, because we will reach a kind of threshold where we are ready to really see what we are made of, let's say, and this threshold has to be kind of overcome. And really, this identity, we can use it as a tool. Of course, when you are at the marketplace, then you need to be able to communicate, or when you have to do your job. Yes, of course, you have some on your resume, you have some lines, but you have also to learn how to not really to define yourself as rigidly as we used to do. And also in your daily life, pay attention how much this sense of self is present and how much it brings suffering with it. And when it's gone, like a house of cards, you say, everything collapses. This is, yeah, in the Buddha's teaching, it's called the codependent origination. When you remove this the clinging, the craving, the desire, let's say the wanting, then of course there is all this. It's not really a change, but yeah, this all of this process of creation of self and suffering, dissatisfaction, just collapse, and then you have a moment of freedom. Yeah. So that was a teaching of today. Thank you for your practice. I'm gonna stop the recording and then you can ask questions if you like. I will stay there for a few moments.